The studio lights blaze to life, washing the set of The View in a golden glow. But something about the atmosphere feels off. Not wrong, just charged, like the air itself is holding its breath. Before we dive in, if you love intense cinematic celebrity moments like this, make sure you subscribe to Talk Battles, hit that like button, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Because what you're about to witness, it doesn't feel like television. It feels like a turning point. The applause rolls in as Emma Stone steps onto the stage, her signature smile lighting up the room. There's something effortlessly magnetic about her. The same charm that carried her from breakout roles like Easy A to global acclaim in La La Land, the performance that earned her an Academy Award. And more recently, her bold, transformative work in Poor Things has reminded everyone that she's not just a star, she's fearless. She takes her seat, smoothing her dress, offering a warm nod to the panel. Across from her sits Sunny Hostin, composed, sharp, observant. A former federal prosecutor turned journalist, Sunny isn't known for easy conversations. She listens carefully, speaks precisely, and when she asks a question, it usually matters. At first, everything flows the way it always does. Pleasantries, light laughter, a quick reflection on Emma's journey, how a young actress from Arizona became one of the most respected performers in Hollywood. Emma laughs softly as clips roll on the screen behind her. Moments from Birdman, the film that won Best Picture, flashes of her dancing under the Los Angeles skyline in La La Land, the haunting stillness of her recent performances. You've had such an incredible range, Sunny says, her tone warm but measured. Comedy, drama, musical, and now these more unconventional, almost provocative roles. Emma smiles. I've just been lucky to work with amazing people, she replies, deflecting praise the way she often does. But Sunny doesn't let it stay there. Do you see it as luck, she asks, tilting her head slightly, or as intentional risk-taking? Emma pauses, just for a second. It's subtle, but it's there. I think both, she says. I've definitely taken risks. But I also think a lot of this industry is timing, opportunity, and, yeah, luck plays a part. The audience nods along. It's a safe answer. Honest, but safe. For now. Sunny folds her hands together, leaning in just slightly. Your recent work, she continues, especially in films that challenge traditional narratives around identity, gender, and control, they've sparked a lot of conversation. Emma nods again. Yeah, they have. And not all of it positive. That's the shift. You can feel it instantly. The room doesn't go silent, but the energy tightens. Audience members stop shifting in their seats. Even the other hosts glance over, sensing the turn. Emma's smile softens, not gone, but more guarded now. I think that's part of making something new, she says carefully. Not everyone's going to agree with it. Sunny watches her closely. But do you think, she asks, her voice steady, that there's a difference between challenging audiences and alienating them? A ripple moves through the crowd. Emma blinks once. Twice. Inside, her thoughts sharpen. This isn't just about film anymore. It's about intention, impact, responsibility. She straightens slightly in her chair. I think it depends on what you're trying to do, she says. If your goal is to make something that feels completely safe and universally accepted, then yeah, you might avoid that line. But I don't know if that's where meaningful storytelling lives. A few claps break out, tentative at first. Sunny nods, acknowledging the point, but she doesn't step back. You've spoken before, she says, about wanting to tell stories that feel honest, even when they're uncomfortable. But some critics argue that discomfort in art can sometimes come at the expense of certain audiences, especially those who already feel underrepresented. Now the tension is unmistakable. Emma's fingers interlace in her lap. Her posture remains calm, but there's a new stillness in her. She chooses her words carefully. I think that's an important conversation, she says. And I don't take that lightly. But I also think it's dangerous to expect art to carry the weight of representing everyone perfectly. That's not possible. The audience reacts, some nodding, others exchanging glances. Sunny's expression doesn't change, but her eyes sharpen. So where does accountability come in? She asks. The question lands heavier than the others. Emma inhales slowly. She remembers interviews where she's spoken about equality in Hollywood, about closing pay gaps, about listening to voices that haven't been heard enough. She's aware of the platform she has. She's aware of the criticism too. I think accountability comes in listening, Emma says. In being open to criticism, in reflecting on your choices. But I don't think it means you stop taking risks. Her voice is steady, but there's an undercurrent now. Not defensive. Not aggressive. Resolved. Sunny leans back slightly, crossing one leg over the other. And do you feel, she continues, that the industry gives everyone the same freedom to take those risks? Emma doesn't hesitate this time. No, she says. The answer is immediate. Clear. The audience responds, this time louder. More unified. Sunny nods, almost approvingly. But you do have that freedom, she says. And there it is. The spotlight shifts, subtly but powerfully, onto Emma herself. Emma's lips press together for a brief moment. She looks down, then back up, meeting Sunny's gaze directly. I do, she admits. There's no hesitation in her voice now. I've been very fortunate in that way. The honesty lands. For a moment, the tension softens, just a little. But Sunny isn't finished. And with that freedom, she says, leaning forward again, comes influence. Emma nods. Yes. So how do you decide, Sunny asks, which risks are worth taking, and which ones might have consequences beyond the screen? The audience goes completely still. No whispers. No shifting. Just silence. Emma sits there for a moment, thinking. Not performing. Not deflecting. Thinking. Her mind flashes through moments in her career. The early days of auditions, the pressure to prove herself beyond comedy, the vulnerability she poured into La La Land, the boldness of her recent choices. The criticism. The praise. The expectations that grew louder with every success. When she speaks, her voice is quieter, but stronger. I don't think there's a perfect formula for that, she says. I think you make the best decision you can with the information and perspective you have at the time. She pauses, and then you live with it. The simplicity of that answer hits harder than anything else. Sunny studies her. And if you get it wrong, Emma's eyes don't waver. Then you learn, she says. A beat passes, and you do better. The audience erupts, applause breaking the tension like a wave crashing against the shore. But even as the clapping grows louder, there's something unresolved still hanging in the air. Because this isn't over. Not even close. Sunny offers a small smile, but it doesn't quite reach her eyes. I appreciate that, she says. I really do. Her tone shifts just slightly. But learning usually comes after impact. The applause fades. The words linger. Emma's expression changes again, this time more visibly. Not upset, not defensive, but engaged. Fully. And now she leans forward. The conversation is no longer polite. It's personal. And the real confrontation is just beginning. The applause fades, but the tension doesn't. It lingers, thick, unspoken, filling every corner of the studio at the view like a quiet storm waiting to break. The audience settles back into their seats, but no one relaxes. Not really, because something has shifted now. This isn't promotion anymore. This is confrontation. Emma Stone leans forward, her posture mirroring Sunny Hostin almost exactly. It's subtle, but it changes the dynamic completely. She's no longer responding, she's engaging. You're right, Emma says, her voice calm but carrying more weight now. Learning does come after impact. She pauses, letting the words settle. But impact isn't always predictable. A murmur ripples through the audience, quiet, thoughtful. Sunny doesn't interrupt this time. She watches, listening carefully. Emma continues, her tone steady but more personal now. I think sometimes people expect artists to anticipate every possible reaction, every interpretation, and I understand why. I really do. But the truth is, stories live differently for different people. She gestures lightly with her hand, as if trying to shape something intangible. What resonates with one person might feel alienating to someone else. What feels empowering to some might feel uncomfortable to others. That doesn't mean the intention was careless. Sunny nods slowly, but her expression remains analytical. Intent doesn't erase impact, she says. The words land clean. Precise. Emma exhales softly through her nose, just enough to show she's absorbing it, not rejecting it. I agree, she replies. It doesn't. There's a brief pause. And then Emma adds, but I also think reducing art to its worst interpretation can be just as limiting as ignoring criticism altogether. The audience reacts, some clapping immediately, others hesitating, weighing the statement. Sunny tilts her head slightly. That's an interesting way to frame it, she says. But when people from marginalized communities say something feels harmful or exclusionary, is that just an interpretation? The question sharpens the moment again. Emma's expression tightens, not defensively, but with focus. No, she says quickly. It's not just anything. It's real. It matters. Her voice carries more urgency now. I'm not dismissing that at all. I think those perspectives are incredibly important. I think they should be listened to, seriously. She pauses, searching for the right words. But I also think there has to be space for complexity, for nuance, for the idea that something can be both meaningful to some people and problematic to others. The audience goes quiet again. It's not disagreement. It's attention. Sunny leans in, resting her elbow lightly on the table. But doesn't that put the burden on the audience? She asks. To sort through that complexity, when the creator holds the power? Emma considers that. Really considers it. You can see it in her eyes, the way they shift slightly, the way her shoulders relax just a fraction as she processes the question instead of reacting to it. I don't think it's about burden, she says slowly. I think it's about participation. Sunny raises an eyebrow, intrigued. Art isn't one-directional, Emma continues. It's a conversation. It evolves depending on who's engaging with it. And I think that's where real change happens, not just in what's created, but in how it's received and discussed. A few audience members nod, whispering to each other. Sunny taps her fingers lightly against the table. But not everyone has the same voice in that conversation, she counters. Emma nods immediately. That's true, she says. And that imbalance, Sunny continues, is what people are reacting to. Not just the content itself, but who gets to create it, who gets to benefit from it, and who gets left out. That lands harder than anything so far. Because now, it's not abstract anymore. It's systemic. Emma's jaw tightens slightly. Not in resistance, but in recognition. She's been part of this system. Benefited from it. Navigated it. She knows that. I don't disagree with that, she says, her voice quieter now, but more grounded. I really don't. There's a sincerity in her tone that shifts the energy again. Not softer, but deeper. I've had opportunities that not everyone gets, she continues. And I'm aware of that. I think about that. She glances down briefly, then back up. But I also don't think the solution is to silence people who have those opportunities. I think the solution is to expand them. The audience claps again, stronger this time. Sunny watches her carefully. And how do you do that? She asks. Emma doesn't hesitate. By supporting different voices, she says. By choosing projects that create space for more perspectives. By working with people who challenge you. By listening when you're called out. And actually taking that seriously. Her voice grows firmer with each point. But also by continuing to create. Because stopping doesn't fix the system. It just pauses it. Sunny leans back slightly, considering that. And do you think Hollywood is doing enough of that right now? She asks. Emma lets out a small, almost humorless breath. No, she says. The honesty draws a reaction, some laughter, some applause. It's changing, she adds. But slowly, and not always evenly. Sunny nods. So where does that leave someone like you? She asks. At the top of the industry, with influence, with visibility, navigating all of this? Emma's expression softens, but her eyes remain focused. It leaves me responsible, she says. The simplicity of the answer cuts through everything. But not perfect, she adds. There's a quiet ripple of recognition in the audience, echoing her earlier words. Sunny gives a small smile. You've said that before, she notes. Emma smiles back, just slightly. Because I believe it, she says. There's a brief pause. And then Sunny shifts again, this time more personal. Do you think audiences are becoming too sensitive, or are creators not listening enough? The question lands like a spark in dry air. Emma's eyes narrow slightly, not in anger, but in focus. Because this is the question that changes everything. And as the audience leans in, holding their breath once again, Emma opens her mouth to answer. But what she's about to say will take this conversation somewhere neither of them can control. The silence stretches, thick, electric, wrapping itself around every corner of the studio at the View. You can feel it in the audience now. No one shifts. No one whispers. Even the cameras seem to move more carefully, as if they know this moment matters. Emma Stone doesn't answer right away. She could. There are safe answers. Diplomatic ones. The kind that glide past controversy and land gently in applause. But she doesn't take that path. Instead, she studies Sunny Hostin for a brief second. Really studies her. Not as a host. Not as an opponent. As someone asking a real question. And then, I think, Emma begins slowly, her voice measured, that framing it as one or the other is part of the problem. A faint murmur passes through the audience. Sunny doesn't react outwardly, but her eyes sharpen, locked in. Emma continues. I don't think audiences are too sensitive, she says. And I don't think creators are inherently not listening enough. I think what's happening is people are finally being heard in ways they weren't before. That lands. Not loudly, but deeply. The audience shifts, absorbing it. For a long time, Emma adds, a lot of voices didn't have space in these conversations. Now they do. And that can feel like a sudden shift, like everything's more intense, more reactive. But maybe it's just more visible. A few heads nod. A quiet wave of agreement. Sunny tilts her head slightly. So you don't think there's any overcorrection? She asks. Emma exhales softly. I think there's growing pains, she replies. I think when something changes this quickly, it's messy. People are figuring out how to express themselves, how to respond, how to engage. She pauses. And yeah, sometimes that can go too far. On all sides. That line stirs the room. Because now she's not just defending one perspective. She's acknowledging friction everywhere. Sunny leans in again. What do you mean by all sides? She asks. Emma doesn't hesitate this time. I mean that sometimes creators dismiss criticism too quickly, she says. And sometimes audiences assume the worst intentions too quickly. A sharper reaction now, some applause, some murmurs of disagreement. Emma stays steady. I've seen both happen, she continues. And neither leads to real understanding. Sunny watches her carefully, then nods once. That's fair, she says. But power still isn't evenly distributed in that equation. Emma nods immediately. No, it's not. And that matters, Sunny presses. Because when someone with a large platform creates something that sparks criticism, their voice is still louder than the people reacting to it. Emma leans forward again, mirroring her, meeting that point directly. Then the responsibility is to make space, she says. Her voice is firmer now. Clearer. Not just to hear criticism, but to amplify it when it's valid. To step back when necessary. To collaborate more intentionally. The audience responds, this time more unified. Sunny studies her, then asks, and have you done that? The question cuts through everything. It's not theoretical anymore. It's personal. Emma pauses. For the first time in a while, she doesn't answer immediately. Her gaze drops just for a moment. And when she looks back up, there's something different in her expression. Not uncertainty. Honesty. I've tried to, she says. A beat. But I know I haven't always gotten it right. The room goes quiet again, but this time it's a different kind of silence. Not tension. Respect. Emma continues, her voice softer now, but more vulnerable than anything she's said so far. There have been moments where I've looked back and thought, I could have handled that better. I could have listened more. I could have understood something I didn't at the time. She pauses, and that's uncomfortable to admit. But it's true. A few audience members start clapping, slowly, deliberately. It builds. Not explosive, but meaningful. Sunny doesn't interrupt the moment. She lets it breathe. And then, that kind of reflection isn't always what people expect from someone at your level, she says. Emma lets out a small, almost self-aware smile. Yeah, she says. I know. Sunny's tone softens, but only slightly. So why say it now, she asks. Why be this open here? The question hangs. Emma glances briefly toward the audience, rows of faces watching her, waiting. Then back to Sunny. Because this is where the conversation is happening, she says. Simple. Direct. And if I only say things when they're comfortable, then I'm not really part of that conversation. I'm just observing it. That line lands hard. A stronger wave of applause follows, more confident now, more unified. Sunny nods slowly. I respect that, she says. And for the first time, it sounds less like a challenge, and more like acknowledgement. But she doesn't stop. Let me ask you something else, Sunny continues, her voice steady again. You've built a career on authenticity, on being relatable, on being human in a way audiences connect with. Emma smiles faintly. I hope so, she says. But with that, Sunny adds, comes expectation. People feel like they know you, like they understand your values. Emma nods. Yeah. So when your work challenges those expectations, Sunny says, does that ever feel like a betrayal to them? The question shifts the emotional tone again. Deeper now. More personal. Emma's smile fades, but not completely. It becomes something more thoughtful. I think it can feel that way to some people, she admits. She folds her hands again, her posture more grounded now. But I also think that expectation, that someone should always align with what you believe they are, that's complicated. Sunny watches closely. Emma continues. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago, and I don't think anyone is. A few murmurs of agreement ripple through the audience. So if my work reflects that change, she says, then yeah, maybe it challenges people's perception of me. She pauses. But I don't think growth should be mistaken for betrayal. That line hits hard. The audience reacts immediately, applause breaking out, louder than before. Sunny leans back slightly, taking it in. And if people don't see it as growth? She asks. Emma meets her gaze. Then that's their perspective, she says. A beat. And they're allowed to have it. There's no defensiveness in her voice. Just clarity. And I'm allowed to keep evolving, she adds. The applause swells again, stronger, more sustained. The tension in the room hasn't disappeared. But it's changed. It's no longer about conflict. It's about contrast. Two perspectives, both grounded, both valid, meeting in real time. Sunny crosses her arms again, not closed off, but thoughtful. For a moment, she doesn't speak. And in that pause, the weight of everything that's been said settles over the room. Then finally, you know, she says, her tone quieter now. This is probably one of the most honest conversations we've had on this show in a long time. A small smile appears on Emma's face. Yeah, she says softly. It feels like it. The audience chuckles lightly, relieved but still engaged. But just as the moment begins to soften, a producer's voice echoes faintly from off-camera. 30 seconds. The reminder cuts through the atmosphere like a sudden shift in gravity. Time is running out. Sunny glances briefly toward the stage manager, then back at Emma. There's one more question forming in her mind. You can see it, feel it, and she decides to ask it. One final push. One last thing, Sunny says. The room stills again. When all of this fades, the headlines, the reactions, the debates, what do you actually want people to take away from your work? Emma doesn't look away. Not for a second. The question isn't confrontational. It's defining. And as the clock ticks down, every single person in that studio leans in, waiting, because whatever she says next will be the moment that defines everything that came before. The studio feels suspended in time. The countdown is real, seconds slipping away, but no one moves, no one breathes too loudly, no one dares break the moment hanging in the air at the view. Emma Stone holds Sunny Hostin's gaze, steady and unflinching. And then she answers. I want people to feel something honest, Emma says, her voice calm, but carrying across the entire room. Not something perfect. Not something universally agreed on. Just something real. The audience is completely still. I think we spend so much time trying to define what's right and what's wrong in art, she continues, that we forget the reason it exists in the first place. It's supposed to make you think. Question. Reflect. She pauses, just long enough for the weight of her words to settle. And if it does that, even imperfectly, then I think it's done something meaningful. Silence. A deep, collective silence. And then, applause. Not immediate, not explosive, but rising, building, spreading through the audience like a wave that starts small and becomes impossible to stop. Sunny watches her for a moment, really watches her, and something in her expression shifts. Not defeat, not concession, recognition. That's a powerful place to stand, Sunny says quietly. Emma gives a small nod. It's the only place I know how to stand, she replies. Another ripple of applause. But before anything more can be said, the show cuts. Thank you for joining us, a voice calls out. We'll be right back. The cameras pull away. The lights soften. And just like that, the moment ends. Or at least, that's how it looks on screen. Backstage, the energy is completely different. The moment the cameras stop rolling, the room exhales all at once. Crew members move quickly, voices low but urgent. Producers exchange looks. Some impressed, some stunned, some already thinking about how this will play online. Because they know, this wasn't just a segment. This was a moment that's about to explode. Emma steps off the stage, her posture still composed. But the second she's out of the spotlight, she exhales deeply. The adrenaline hits her all at once, subtle but undeniable. An assistant hands her a bottle of water. Are you okay? They ask softly. Emma nods, taking a sip. Yeah, she says. Then, after a beat, that was a lot. Not overwhelmed. Not shaken. Just aware. Across the set, Sunny remains near the table for a moment longer. She gathers her notes slowly, her expression thoughtful. Not tense, not defensive. Reflective. A producer approaches her. "That was incredible," they say. Sunny gives a small, measured smile. "It was honest," she replies. And that's all she says. Within minutes, the clips start spreading. First on social media, short, sharp cuts of the exchange. Emma saying, "Responsibility doesn't mean perfection." Sunny asking, "Intent doesn't erase impact." The final line, "I want people to feel something honest." Then the captions begin. Emma Stone shuts down tough questions. Sunny Hostin challenges Hollywood privilege live. Tension erupts on The View. The narrative splits instantly. Supporters of Emma Stone flood the comments, praising her composure, her thoughtfulness, her willingness to admit imperfection without backing down. Clips of her responses are turned into quotes, stitched into edits, shared across platforms with captions about authenticity and growth. At the same time, supporters of Sunny Hostin push back, highlighting her questions, her insistence on accountability, her refusal to let the conversation stay comfortable. They point out the importance of what she raised, the imbalance of power, the weight of influence, the voices still struggling to be heard. Within hours, major entertainment outlets pick it up. Breakdowns, analysis, think pieces. Some call it a masterclass in navigating difficult conversations. Others call it a rare moment of real tension on daytime television. And some call it a clash. But almost everyone agrees on one thing. It didn't feel scripted. Later that evening, a behind-the-scenes clip surfaces. Emma walking through a quiet hallway, heels echoing softly against the floor. A producer catches up to her, asking if she wants to clarify anything, issue a statement, shape the narrative before it grows. Emma stops, thinks for a moment, then shakes her head. "I said what I meant," she replies simply, and keeps walking. The next day, The View opens with a different energy. The audience is louder, more charged. Everyone has seen the clips. Sunny sits at the table, composed as always, but there's an awareness now. She knows what's being said online. She knows the conversation has grown beyond the studio. When her turn comes, she addresses it directly. "Yesterday's conversation sparked a lot of reactions," she says. "And that's not a bad thing." The audience listens closely. "I asked the questions I felt were important," she continues. "And I respect the answers that were given." She pauses. But conversations like that, they shouldn't end when the cameras stop. A wave of applause follows, strong, supportive. Meanwhile, Emma appears in a short follow-up interview clip released online. No dramatic setting. No studio lights. Just her calm, grounded. "I don't think anyone won that conversation," she says. "And I don't think that was the point." She smiles faintly. "I think the point was to have it." Back online, the debate keeps growing. Clips are analyzed frame by frame. Body language experts breaking down every glance, every pause. Commentators debate who held their ground better, who made stronger points, who shifted the narrative. But something interesting starts to happen. Amid all the noise, people start talking to each other. Not just reacting, not just choosing sides, but actually discussing the ideas that were raised: art versus responsibility, intention versus impact, growth versus expectation. And that's when it becomes clear. This wasn't just a viral moment. It was a conversation that stuck. Days later, one final clip resurfaces, the ending. Emma's voice, steady and clear. "I want people to feel something honest." It plays again, and again, and again, because in a world of perfectly crafted answers and carefully controlled narratives, that line felt different. It felt real. So now it comes down to you. What did you see in that moment? Was Emma Stone right to stand her ground and defend artistic freedom? Or did Sunny Hostin raise the tougher, more necessary questions about accountability and impact? There's no easy answer. And maybe that's the point. Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this conversation doesn't end here. And if you want more cinematic, reality-inspired stories like this, make sure you subscribe to Talk Battles, hit that like button, and stay tuned for the next moment that feels too real to be scripted.